Good afternoon and welcome to EPTV Live. And today we're not just live on YouTube, but we're also live on Facebook. Welcome to everybody who are watching us on both those channels, either right now live or later on. Well, I'm delighted today to be welcomed by five-time Paralympic champion Natasha Baker MBE. Natasha, how are you?
Hi, Phil. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Really, really good, thank you. Before we have a little look around what you're up to, let's just reflect on your MBE. That came after one of your massive Olympic successes, didn't it?
Yeah, that came after London 2012. It was very, very surreal because at first you get a letter through from the royal family saying that you've been nominated, and then you can accept or deny, which I don't quite know why you'd want to do the latter. So yeah, I accepted, and I was part of the New Year's honours list after 2012, which was just incredible.
Right, well, many congratulations. 8 years on, of course, you still got it and you keep it forever. Now, let's just tell everybody where you live. I mean, we see you so much on the television and we see you competing all around the world. Whereabouts are you actually based? You're in the UK, we know that.
Yep, so I'm in the UK. I'm actually in West London. So I'm in Uxbridge, which is the last stop on the Metropolitan line and the Piccadilly line. So I literally am in West London, but as you can see, we do have some green here. We're not all built up area, and I'm in 28 acres here at my parents' farm, so we're incredibly lucky.
And have you been there a long time? Did you grow up there, Tasha?
I did, yeah. I'm fourth generation at the farm. So my great granddad bought it back in the 50s. And then, yeah, it's kind of gone through the family. So I don't actually live here anymore. I moved out a couple of years ago with my boyfriend, but I'm literally like a mile down the road. So I didn't want to go too far.
Well, you mentioned Mark, your boyfriend. You've referred to him as boyfriend, but he's a bit more than that now, isn't he?
He is, yeah. We've been together for 5 years, and he finally proposed in January this year on the top of a mountain in Switzerland. So it was amazing. Yeah, really, really special.
And have you got plans? Do you know when you're going to get married yet? Have you decided on that?
So we haven't come up with a date. We were kind of in the process of choosing venues and choosing dates before lockdown started. And then obviously we haven't been able to go and look at any venues. So we're thinking spring 2022. My plan was that 2020 this year was obviously going to be the Tokyo Paralympic Games. So I was hoping I was going to be really busy with the horses this year and that I would be able to do 2021 wedding planning. But obviously that's gone completely out of the window now, and I think I'm going to be doing everything next year. So yeah, just play it by ear and see how it goes. But yeah, I think springtime in a couple of years would be lovely.
Well, of course, Tokyo has been such a huge disappointment for so many athletes across all the different sports and disciplines. What did it mean? I mean, it was a ridiculous question, clearly very disappointed. But, you know, and you're multi-medalist, not just with your Paralympic gold medals, but also 5 times European champion. But the big occasions mean an awful lot to you still, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. You know, that's what we do it for. And, you know, that's what we train for every day. We strive to be better than we were yesterday. And, you know, I just want to go out and show the world what I can do on my horses. And, you know, when you have that ultimate goal of a Paralympics and it only comes along every 4 years, obviously, and then suddenly that's not the aim anymore, it can be quite difficult. And I think I found it hardest when all of this was happening around us and a decision hadn't yet been made about the postponement or the cancellation or really what they were going to do. And being in limbo was really, really difficult. So it's great now that they've come up with a decision and that we know now what the new dates are that we're aiming towards.
What are the new dates?
So I'm pretty sure for the Paralympics, it starts on the 24th of August, which is pretty much to the day the same as it was going to be this year.
Well, I think we're going to have an opportunity to little look around your yard and your premises there. Just whilst we're on, because we're live on EPTV on YouTube, also on Facebook, and people that are watching do have the opportunity to send in questions that they may wish to ask you, Tasha, whilst we've got your attention, and we thank you very much indeed for your time. So please do send in your questions whilst you're watching. I'm going to leave it up to you. Where are you going to take us next?
So as you can see, here is actually the field. So this is my horse's field. I might actually turn my camera around because I think that's going to be a bit easier. So that is sorry, I just muted myself. That's my top horse's field, and so she's got a lovely paddock there. There's our trailer that we go out to some places on, and that's my parents' house in the background there.
Now, although the image is quite small, Tasha, your top horse, is that Keystone? Is it what Keystone Dawn Chorus?
Dawn Chorus, yes, that's Lottie.
Right, and talk to me through. I can see a mate in the field. What's going on there?
A little one down there, that's Pickles. So they go out together. They are literally like best buddies. They absolutely adore each other, and it's so nice because it just means that then it gives Lottie a little bit of company. She doesn't like being out on her own, but I also don't want her to go out with another big horse and potentially get kicked or get injured. So having the little one there, it just gives her a little bit of company, and they absolutely adore each other. I've got some really funny videos actually on my Instagram of Pickles trying to grab her because Lottie likes her lunch al fresco out in the field. And Pickles comes and tries to steal some of her lunch. So she's very, very tolerant and very patient, but nothing comes between Lottie and her food. She loves food. So which we've got on my mobility scooter. But in here, I'll turn around so you can see me. That is the big American style barn that we've got, and in there we've got 12 stables, and then we've got another 2 wooden ones outside, and they are all livery horses in there. It was purpose built. My dad actually put a lot of the brickwork together in there and built a lot of it himself, and it was done I think 2005, so it's been here quite a while. We took down some really old stables that were pretty much falling down and put this together. So we've got a tack room in there, and we've got feed store there, we've got hay over here, and then all of the stables. So as I said, they're all full liveries or part liveries in there. And then we decided to actually move my horses out of there just because of drug control, basically. Obviously, some of the horses that are liveries, they one of them is on a drug that my horse isn't able to have, and I don't want any cross-contamination when it comes to drug testing. So we had these stables built. So I've got 3 stables here and a tack room at the bottom, and it's literally right next to the house. So it just means that Lottie is completely separate from all of the others, and there's no cross-contamination or anything like that. And then I've got a tack room that my dad has again built. He's very handy, my dad. So it's a bit of a mess at the moment, actually. I'm going to turn the camera around again. But her feed is in here, and then Dad built all of these cupboards. We've got the freezer for her ice boots, but Dad built all of those cupboards. So we've got rugs in one, tack in another, and then we've got some of my trophies. And that was the calendar, which was very full for this year, but obviously everything's been scrubbed out because of the coronavirus. And then that's my mobility scooter. And then just down here, we've got another stable there, which is currently empty. But just down here, I have got I like to call it her dressing room. So it's got the solarium up there with the lights and all of the stuff up there that we use on a daily basis. her massage rug, her feeds are made up for the day, and her like grooming kit, all of her rugs and everything there, just so that I can tack her up and do all of the bits that I need to do, so I can cross tie her in there and get her ready to ride or get her ready to go out in the field, and yeah, just faff around as us riders like to do a lot of.
And have you altered your routine without the Olympics now? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis with Lottie?
So yeah, it has changed quite a lot. So my trainer, Lisa Hopkins, she's obviously not able to come down and train me. She normally warms Lottie up for me. So before I ride, she gets on and does the stretching work and the long and low. Because I ride without stirrups, and obviously I'm doing sitting trot all of the time, I like to put an able-bodied person on just so they can do rising trot, really get them over the back and really give them a good stretch. So obviously that's not happening at the moment, so I'm doing lots more, well, my mum is doing lots more lunging with a rope or with an equiami, just to kind of replicate that as much as possible, and then I'm riding her in the school around 2 to 3 times a week, which is a bit less than I normally would, and I'm focusing on some schooling work, but lots of pole exercises, lots of groundwork, so a lot of variation. And then right over, I would take you there, but it'll take me ages to get there, right over the back we've got a massive field which the boys go out in. So we have a boys field and a girls field for the livery horses, and the boys field is humongous, so I tend to walk around that and give her a bit of a hack. And normally I would go around the roads, but obviously with social distancing that's not possible at the moment.
And we have actually just got a couple of messages in. I've just got an email in from Jane. Finding a Paralympic horse, how difficult is that?
It is quite difficult. I mean, I've been really lucky sometimes, and Freddie, the horse that you've now bought from us, he was, and you know, I knew that he was really special, whereas other times it's taken me, you know, a year and a half to find. And I think it's having a really clear idea of exactly what you want. And of course there's always going to be things that you have to compromise on. There's never the perfect horse, but having a clear view and bullet points of exactly what you want and what you're looking for. Obviously temperament is key. That's the most important thing for a para horse. And all of my horses that I've ever bought and been ridden by a para rider, but how adaptable they are to different aids. So I can't use my legs at all when I'm riding. So how quickly they pick up my voice and my seat, and things like that. And I think, you know, you're never going to get on a horse and then be able to take it into the arena the day after, but it's how quickly they can get used to those different aids and how quickly they accept it. And then obviously, you know, temperament, you don't want something that's going to be really naughty, and then for a top international para horse, then they've got to have the quality as well. And this is the big difference, I guess, between having like an RDA horse as to having a Paralympic horse. They've got to have that quality that they need to be able to win a gold medal.
And actually, if anybody that hasn't seen your website, Tasha, it's very striking that all the horses that you've competed on, that are imaged on your website, they're all beautiful animals. You've clearly got, you've definitely got a style that you like, and they're very, very attractive. And I'm delighted to say that Freddie, who's just outside here, equally the same.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, it is so important to have that connection. And you know, I'm very lucky that I have had the most amazing horses, but you know, it doesn't always work out. And I bought Freddie, well, my owner bought Freddie for me as a 5-year-old, and unfortunately after a year and a half of trying, he didn't quite get my disability, and obviously that's why we ended up selling him, and he's got the perfect home with you. But you know, it doesn't always work out, but you've got to give it the time and the patience to allow allow the horses to try and understand what you're asking them to do. But you know, JP was unbelievable, and he was my most successful horse. I mean, he won 11 gold medals for me, but he was incredibly sensitive, but we had this connection that was just unbelievable. And although he was sharp, although he was spooky, and although he was sensitive, he really looked after me. And you know, that was just proof of the pudding in the results, really.
So do you have the ability to have a horse on trial? Is that your ideal scenario, or doesn't it work like that?
It doesn't always work like that. I mean, it did work when I leased Diva in 2018. I think a lease or a loan is very different to a purchase. You know, with a purchase, obviously it's quite a big risk putting a horse out on a trial. You know, it's a big risk for the horse, it's a big risk for the owner and for the person that is then trialing it. But what I try to do is go down and ride them at the owners as much as possible. So I bought Lottie from Beth Bainbridge down in Devon at Elite Dressage, and she was incredible. I went down there for a few days. I rode her through a storm. I hacked her. I rode her in a couple of different arenas. And then, you know, once I knew that she was the right horse for me, that's when I decided to have her vetted. But, you know, I think it's really important not to rush into a decision. And just ride them as much as possible. You know, whereas Diva, because she was being leased, then that was slightly different. So she did come home, and we did have her on a week's trial home here. But obviously that's very different circumstances. So it kind of does depend on the way that you're purchasing or leasing.
We've had an email in from Debbie in Stroud. You mentioned about your 11 gold medals with JP. Well, this question is I'm sure related to JP. Can you say which of your Paralympic golds was the absolutely most special?
That's really, really hard. I think the first one, because it's what I'd worked on for such a long time. You know, when I was 10 years old, I announced that one day I wanted to win a Paralympic gold medal. And then 12 years later, I was standing on the podium in London, in my hometown. You know, that was just exceptional. And to have the support of you know, Great Britain and everybody behind you, and have those, I think it was 14,000 people chanting my name and chanting JP's name. That was just, it gives me goosebumps now just thinking about it. So I think that one, but I think also my last one, which was my freestyle gold medal in Rio, because it was the last test that I ever did on JP, and I was crying as I was walking down the final centre line, because you know, he did so much for me, you know, more than I could have ever dreamt of, and so to know that our journey was coming to an end was very, very emotional. And the fact that I could, you know, pull that test off, do an amazing freestyle and win the gold medal from it was very, very special.
Well, you talk about London, you talk about 14,000 people and the atmosphere in the arena, Tasha. Last week, you were also going to be witnessing the atmosphere in an arena, but not as a rider, but
No.
as a dressage commentator on FEI TV, Las Vegas. Gutting not to be there as well, I think.
Yeah, totally. We were going to have the time of our lives, weren't we, Phil? Yeah, it was, you know, this coronavirus has got a lot to answer for. Yeah, it was really, really upsetting that we couldn't go out there, and more so I think for the riders that had worked so hard and campaigned all winter to get to the finals. And you know, we had some first time competitors that were going to be out there at their first ever World Cup, and being in Vegas was just going to be amazing. I mean, I've never been to Vegas, so I was really excited just to be able to get there. But it's such an amazing competition. You know, this would have been my third finals commentating for FEI TV, and I was so looking forward to it. But we'll just have to wait for next year, won't we, Phil?
We on EPTV Live last week, we spoke with Isabel Worth and Carl Hester. And during the Vegas week last week, Isabel was actually going to do her tests at home,
Oh,
which I thought was,
amazing. And you know what? I think for dressage this year, it was going to be probably the most exciting finals yet, because we had so many amazing competitors there. You know, I think in previous years, sometimes you kind of think, oh, well, it's Isabel's. And I know she had a bit of a fight on her hand last year with Laura Graves. But, you know, this year she had Jessica von Breda-Verdel and she had Charlotte Dujardin, who were literally snapping at her heels. And I really think it was going to be an incredible finals. So hopefully we'll get that again next year.
Let's just talk about what also you're up, because you've been doing some Facebook Live work yourself, haven't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started off doing 3 a week, which I was loving, but then I thought, to actually, for the longevity of this, I want to actually do this after this whole isolation coronavirus. So now I'm doing 1 Facebook Live every week on a Monday night at 7 o'clock over on my Facebook page, Natasha Baker MBE Paralympic dressage rider. And I'm just talking, sometimes I do general Q&As where people can just write in questions and I answer them. But what I thought I would start doing is doing more topical chats. So I've done one on what it takes to start out in Paralympic dressage, right from RDA grassroots levels all the way through to being a Paralympic athlete. What are the steps that you need to take on your journey? And then I did another one on how to approach sponsors, you know, what to expect from sponsorship, what to offer, and that kind of thing, because I think that's really helpful. And it's the things that actually you don't really get to hear a lot of. And you know, I had quite a lot of experience, and if I can pass on some really helpful tips or pointers to somebody that's at the beginning of their journey, halfway through, or even at the top, if somebody learns something new, then that's great. So last week on Monday I did a whole hour, because I do like to chat a lot, and so they are generally lasting about an hour. But I did an hour talking through my whole London 2012 experience. And you know what, Phil? I cried twice. I got so emotional talking about it. I was so embarrassed at crying live on Facebook. But yeah, I cried twice. And then tonight I am going to do my Rio story. So what it took to get to Rio, about flying out there, because obviously that was very, very different to London 2012 being just around the corner. So about getting out to Rio and my experiences out there, because every games and every competition is so different. So they've been going down really, really well, and I'm planning to do some more. And I'm actually planning on getting a few other people, maybe some other riders, maybe some of my sponsors, talking about nutrition, you know, anything like that. I've got a photography sponsor, so I was going to do maybe one on equine photography and how to prepare for a photo shoot. And I just want to try and give back, and I want to try and, you know, spread some messages that maybe aren't out there to Google, you know, experiences that I've had firsthand.
Practical
Yeah.
experience, as you say, that you learn off the internet. You mentioned about other riders. Charlie on email, how much contact do you usually have with your other Team GB teammates throughout the year?
So slightly less during the winter, but we're with each other a lot during the summer. We generally have squad trainings, which are 3 days and 2 nights. So we're normally at Stow-on-the-Wold at the Unicorn Centre. So we travel up and then have 2 really full, intense days where we see everybody. So we have training, but we also see the nutritionists, the physiotherapists, the vets, the chiropractors, the physios, the psychologists. So literally everybody is under one roof, and so we can see everybody, catch up, and fill them in, and hopefully pick up some new things that we can then start working on. So we normally have squad trainings probably around 4 or 5 times a year, and then of course we're always together at competitions. So whether that be a local competition down the road where I might just see the local riders in this area, but then at international competitions we're together for a week at a time, staying away either in the horse box or in a hotel. So some of the team were meant to be away this week in Belgium. I was meant to be away in May in France. Obviously that's not happening this year, but that will be happening hopefully at the end of the year, and obviously into next year to qualify for Tokyo.
And obviously we don't know when things are going to start, Tasha, no one does, but you know, if we said 2 or 3 months, 4 months down the road, do you have a competition that you'd like to get out into the fresh air and do some competing that you'd like to go to?
There's an international KISO in October, so we are really keeping our fingers firmly crossed that that will be able to go ahead. It was a great one. It was actually my first one on Lottie last year, and we were incredibly successful and won all 3 days of competition there last year. So it would be great to be able to repeat that again this year, and then get a good kickstart into our winter training, and then obviously heading out to Tokyo next year.
Well, Tasha, thank you very much indeed for joining us live on EPTV, both on YouTube and Facebook Live. My very best wishes to you, Tasha, and I look forward to chatting with you over the next few days. Natasha Baker MBE, thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.